Well, this is Dr. Stanley Lang, and welcome to this presentation. This video is a continuation of a series of videos that I've been doing on whole person health, and the focus is either on emotional, physical, or spiritual health when I do one of these videos in this series. And today the focus is on spiritual health. So I have a question for you. What do you think the role of focus is in your life? And how distracted are you from your mission? So I guess that's two questions, but they're kind of connected, focus and distractibility. So the reason I asked that question is based on my reflections from this morning when I was praying about different scriptures that I'd been reading. And there are different images that came to mind from the things that I was reading. The first was from one of the wisdom books, and the image was that a beam that was basically tied into the home in its construction was unshakable in an earthquake, and that somebody who spent significant time in reflection, uh, and reached a point of certainty about what they're supposed to do with their life, that person was as unshakable as this beam was in the home with an earthquake. And the point is that that a lot of things happen in our lives that can get us off course from what God wants us to be doing. And it's interesting that these ancient thoughts captured the understanding that reflection and reaching a point of certainty about what is the purpose of my life, where am I being called to go, that was knowledge that was understood more than 3,000 years ago. And what I see nowadays is that many people, many Christians, are distracted from the mission that God has for them because of the multitude of stuff that surrounds us. The other scriptures that I sort of focused on included the image of Jesus at the Last Supper, and it's right after Judas leaves the Last Supper, and Jesus says, "Now I've been glorified." And he's talking about the beginning of his passion. So the very beginning of his passion was not in the garden when he was uh, suffering, but it was actually when he was betrayed, when Judas walked out that door, and Jesus knew what was going to happen next. And each of us knows the pain of betrayal, yet that knowing what Judas was going to do, and experiencing that stab in the back didn't didn't take him off his course at all. In fact, he told the rest of the disciples that he was being glorified at that moment, that God was going to be glorified because of this process. Jesus was really focused on where he was going next, and he knew where he was going next was to the cross. And the point is that Jesus' whole life was, especially his public life that we know about, was very focused on his mission. He was unflinching on his focus. And I think that for us, that we often lose that kind of focus, and we get distracted into many, many different things, and we don't get the enthusiasm that we should have and could have for the mission that God has for our life. So each one of us has one or more major issues that God wants us to do for the kingdom. And everything else that we have that are important to us should support that one major thing, or those two major things. And so they are not competing with the one thing. They're the way that I do that one thing. So my family isn't a distraction from doing that one thing that God wants me to do, or that major mission that God has for me to do. My best friends, my faith community, that's not the distraction. Those are the parts of my life that my mission is lived through. But all the other stuff around me is a distraction, the stuff of the world, so to speak. And we do know that there's more distraction now than ever. Youth, unfortunately, are learning to live in a distracted setting, and distractibility is becoming the new norm. Instead of being able to stay focused for hours on something, the attention span for a lot of people is 30 seconds or less. And if you can't get your message in 30 seconds, they're already zoned out. And God wants us to be able to really focus on what the mission is for each one of us, and to assess, are the things around me building into that mission, or are they distracting me from that mission? My family and my close friends and my faith community are meant to be elements of the structure that supports the mission that I'm supposed to do, not distractions from the mission. But all the other stuff, I got to be very suspicious about. Maybe it's a distraction. So I want to encourage you today to step into that space where you're really focused about what God wants you to do, because then you can live your life with enthusiasm. Every moment counts. Every day counts. There's not a day that you can afford to waste. It's like Paul running the race. And so I encourage you to live that life of focus, so that when the distractions that can be as powerful as an earthquake come, doesn't shake you at all, and that you have the same kind of focus, that we have the same kind of focus as Jesus had during his whole ministry. And especially even at the time that he's being betrayed, he's focused on what God is doing and what his next steps are going to be to fulfill that mission. So I wish you well in living this life of enthusiasm and of focus. God bless and have a good day.